All right. It is Monday, September 16th. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We had a little bit of trouble getting into our physical space, but appreciate the commissioners helping getting us set up in record time. Thank you, Commissioner Sani in particular. I'm going to call this meeting to order and call the roll. I'm going to start with Commissioner Hurst.
Present.
Commissioner Sani.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Gallo.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson is myself, and I'm present. Commissioner Bishop Henchman.
Here.
And Commissioner Pinckney. I'm checking online, and I do not see her present. We have 6 out of 7 commissioners present, so we have quorum. So first order of business is the approval of the agenda. The agenda was placed online. I will turn to commissioners to see if there are any amendments that have been proposed to the agenda. I'll make 2 quick notes. I think both the council member's office and I believe the MOGR also was not able to join in person, but they have sent updates in lieu of that. Any proposed changes? Okay, with none noted, with no objections, I'm going to do a voice call. Any objections? All in favor? Great, agenda passes. Okay, great. So first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Commissioner Bishop Henchman.
Thank you. I circulated 2 sets of minutes, one from our regular meeting of July 15th and then one from our special meeting of August 17th. Nobody sent any edits or amendments.
All right, I think we are back in business. We may go back.
Excellent.
We can start recording. It is recording, cool.
Perfect, excellent. You are on Zoom and hear us, just let us know and we'll update accordingly. Okay, so the next order of business, so the last item that just happened is we approved the minutes from two previous meetings, and now we are on officer reports and commissioner announcements. I'll turn to officers first, and then open it up to other commissioners who would like to go first. Turn to our treasurer.
I can be fairly brief. We've only had one financial change during the summer, which was that we got a disbursement of $4,702.97 from the city, which is deposited into our bank account this summer. That's the only change since we have had our last meeting. That brings our bank account total to $36,188 exactly. That's the entire treasurer's report.
Thank you. I will add on kind of, since this is related to the treasurer's report, the fiscal year is starting for fiscal year 25 is starting in October. So one order of business is that we are required to pass a budget by the October meeting. I've asked commissioners for budget requests. We'll kind of deliberate via online and hopefully have a budget to present in October. So if you have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out to the commissioners, or the commission-wide email is 5f@anc.dc.gov. Great. Any other officers? Okay, so I'll have a quick update just to kind of go a little bit more into depth regarding our special meeting that was held on August 17th. The big order of business was our grants program. So it is overdue on my list to place more information about that online on how to apply. But essentially, we did full kind of amendments from our kind of standard operating procedures. So some of the things that we adopted were that the limit for grants would be $2,500, so that we were able to disperse it more to more community organizations. We also adopted a grants schedule, so they will be quarterly. So starting with the fiscal year 25, they would be voted on in the March, June, September, and December meetings. And this information is available online via the minutes that were adopted in our August meeting that we just passed. The draft version is there, but we will have this more spelled out so that it's more easily accessible to community members on our website, and we'll be doing additional outreach. Let's see. One kind of big part of the procedure is that the Office of ANCs has standardized a form across ANCs for organizations to use to apply for a grant. So one kind of additional logistical piece of that is that the Office of ANCs, while they don't provide any input on whether kind of the substance of a grant, while the Office of OANCs can't kind of provide guidance on whether a grant should be approved or declined, that's within kind of the purview of the specific commissions. What they do is they review the grant, make sure that it's in line with the policies, kind of make sure it's like all up to snuff legally, and they provide some guidance as to the application, including kind of if they need additional information, or so they kind of provide that type of like feedback and request that it's done a week in advance of the due date. So again, we'll place that all online so that there's more standardized process, but I'm happy to take questions later as well. Any other commissioners have announcements? Commissioner Bishop-Henchman?
I have complained about one too many things.
Okay.
And so the Office of ANCs has named me as Ward 5's member of the OANC Advisory Board.
Exciting.
Of 11 commissioners. I expect it'll be reconstituted in January,
Sure.
so this is kind of a short-term thing, but you know, certainly if there's things that you see in OANC processes that can be improved, I guess it's now my role to pass that along to them and help guide them on that. So please reach out at any time.
That's fantastic. And just to kind of thank you for your service, and also just to kind of provide context to those who are unfamiliar, there is a government agency that's called the Office of ANCs that provides support to the ANC. So those are government employees who have salaries, unlike the commissioners who are elected volunteers. Excellent. Any other commissioners have announcements?
Yeah, I wanted to just give a brief update on the draft air quality permit for Fort Myer construction. ANC 5F passed a resolution. It was back in May, if I'm not mistaken, and March, and essentially requesting additional regulations on the Fort Myer construction permit, the minor synthetic permit that allows them to essentially pollute, but also do their recycling asphalt at the plant along 5th Street. That has there were more than 600 comments that came from the public, and I just want to appreciate everyone who participated in that effort. They are still continuing to work through those comments. It's been almost 6 months now, and are trying to follow kind of their regulatory requirements. And so they still have not responded to all aspects of that resolution that was passed at that time. So there are a few questions that are still kind of out, but the plan is to resolve that in the near future. They did not give a timeline. So just awareness, I know there was a lot of feedback that's provided, so I'll continue to ask in another month or two what the timeline is. So thanks, everyone.
Commissioner Sani, Commissioner Williams, any announcements? Okay, great. I guess I'll add a quick one, just while we have a lot of people on the line. I know that there's been a lot of interest about kind of the DC Public Library input process, so just wanted to share that link. Strategic partners for kind of the consultancy working on it or doing a presentation for the library, ANC 5F Library Task Force meeting tomorrow at 8 p.m. So details on how to join that will be on our website, but just wanted to kind of verbal that. All right, let's move on to the next portion of the agenda, which are announcements from representatives of elected officials. As I mentioned, both of them are not able to join in person today. I don't have an update from Mr. Block yet, but if I do before the end of the meeting, I will kind of refer it there. But from Council Member Zachary Parker's office, I will read verbatim. There's been a soft update from VDOT that they have decided to not move forward with the Deckover project. There's not official word, and the results of the North Capitol study are forthcoming. So they'll keep us updated as they get concrete details about the study results. Second, so the DC Council recess ends this week. So their office is busy following up on existing legislative priorities before the end of the council period at the end of the year. And then Ward 5 Day is Sunday, September 22nd at Turkey Thicket Recreation Center. Please come out, celebrate all things Ward 5 with neighbors, community organizations, and businesses, and come together for a day of fun and community. There are pop-up events all this week, so please go to their website to learn more and to sign up and volunteer if you'd like. And their website is zacharyparkerward5.com. The Ward 5 specific website is zacharyparkerward5.com/ward-5-day/ I suspect you're not going to remember that. They have a great newsletter if you go to their website as well, which they send out these updates for. All right, excellent. I'm going to close that section of the agenda and go to public comment. We've allotted 10 minutes total for public comment, up to 2 minutes per speaker. We'll kind of take public comment first, and then the commissioners will kind of respond once we've heard from the public. I will say that if there are items relating to, if there are comments related to items that are on our agenda, I would ask that you save them to that portion of the agenda, so it kind of that there's a kind of coherent discussion of that. But you are welcome to say whatever you'd like. That is just my suggestion. I will, if you are joining us on Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature, and we'll recognize you. If you're in person, just ask that you physically raise your hand. Go ahead.
Hi.
Oh, if you feel comfortable, if you'd like to share generally where you're in the neighborhood, that would be great.
Okay, so here's my 2 minutes then. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Luis Ortiz, and I live on S Street Northeast between Lincoln Road and North Capitol. I'm here to address a growing pressing issue affecting our neighborhood. As you may know, there's underserved migrants that was established 13 months ago between Emory House and the Harry Thomas Park. And while the neighborhood has a strong tradition of compassion and action in regard to migration, it is causing serious challenges for both the encampment participants and neighborhood residents. Over the past 13 months, we've seen a sharp rise of crime on the 1700 block of Lincoln Road, including, but not limited to, illegal dumping, public drug and alcohol consumption, disorderly conduct, sexual harassment, and increased number of public shootings. This rising crime is creating a dangerous environment for everybody. I am now urging the ANC commissioners to adopt some sort of resolution. I've emailed you all a suggested draft. Affirming the situation has for 13 months and seeking some sort of actions for relevant stakeholders that are funded by DC taxpayers. This proposed draft includes the following segments. Requesting a status update from Emory House. So a report on its capacity, staffing, and budget since the influx of the migrants arrived last August. Confirmation of immediate access to essential services. We would like to see data from Emory House on how many individuals have actually been given access to services like healthcare and food, and how many individuals are just loitering amongst the Emory House residents. Proposals for long-term solutions, including developing pathways amongst stakeholders to provide stable housing and employment for these encampment participants, and ensuring law enforcement addresses those who are causing harm to them and to the neighborhood. And we're looking for community engagement. We want local residents to be engaged, both in having our concerns addressed and also using us as an accountability mechanism for all stakeholders involved. Addressing this issue urgently and with empathy will improve the quality of life for both the encampment residents and the community as a whole. I think we have a collective responsibility to act compassionately and ensure every individual has an opportunity to thrive. And thank you for your attention. I trust that with everyone's leadership in the room, we can find a solution that benefits everyone in our community. Thank you.
That was incredibly timely. Thank you. I will again go to others for public comment and then give commissioners a chance to respond. Would anyone like to? Okay, I don't see any hands. So I will close public comment and turn to our commissioners.
Yeah, I'll mention, thanks, Luis, for coming and speaking on this issue. I know we had met in May timeframe to kind of corral the different groups and agencies to try to help out. And since then, I haven't been able to be as engaged, so I appreciate your patience. But I know that area hasn't gotten substantially better. I mean, there's been some cleanups occasionally here and there, as I've been able to see, but the area is not improving. And I cannot imagine what it's like to live on that block. And I'm sorry that you have to continue to go through that, especially the dumping and damage to your property in your area, and kind of what it feels like. My wife also was harassed and whatnot there. So
Sorry to hear that.
it's not acceptable for anyone to have to go through that effort. So I would urge other commissioners to also read it. I just requested access. It didn't seem like I had access, so hopefully I can take a look at that resolution. I'd be definitely interested in seeing how we can partner. And you know, my kind of initial take is that there are a lot of folks who do need help, and there are some bad actors, and there are some people who just seem lost. And it seems to me that it requires a whole government kind of response. But the community needs to be included in that. And I know that this isn't in my single member district, it's far out, but you know, if I can help, I'm still part of the neighborhood, it's still part of the commission, so.
I should have thanked you earlier for convening, some early stakeholders earlier in the summer. That's what, I mean, it was a wonderful, opportunity to see everyone that should be involved, but the lack of inaction from various government agencies just forced me to show up tonight. And I'm hoping to continue that momentum that you definitely contributed to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thank you for coming, and I've also just requested access to look at it, and yeah, sorry.
You might have
And,
just gotten a lot of pings.
You know, I'll be interested in taking a look at it and seeing what we can do that would be constructive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Would you send it out to everybody once you send it?
I think he emailed
I
it
think
to
he emailed it to
all of us.
everybody.
Yeah, I
Okay,
just need to
good.
make it public, sorry.
He did it like right
Yeah,
as
he read it,
started
he did
talking.
it right as he started talking,
Yeah.
and
Just
send it to
so-
all the
I'm not
commissioners.
getting any emails from nobody.
Okay, let's touch back base with OANC. Email is working, but he did send it out to all the commissioners. Thank you. Obviously,
Thank
it
you
is a
again.
obviously, that is a very important issue. I did just loop in Mr. Bonner and also Mr. Black, just so part of the same thread, so that we can make sure that government agencies are involved in this. And, you know, we'll take a look, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
I can do to be helpful, because I, again, have never engaged with the agencies before. But I just feel like I've run out of steam in terms of
Sure.
the usual suspects, and I'm just looking for new allies to just continue bringing attention to the issue.
Yeah, I'm sure it's frustrating when there's 35 people on an email chain and only one or two occasionally respond, and it feels like you're yelling into a void space, and that's extremely frustrating. I'm sorry that continues to happen.
You know, you were mentioning before me, there needs to be a paradigm shift, because like just doing what you should be doing, which is the trash pickup, the managing of the parks and rec space, the you know, vehicles on the street, and probably have fake paper plates. Doing the status quo obviously isn't changing anything, so it's got to be beyond that, and I don't know where to begin in terms of getting to that point.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah,
Is it
absolutely.
in a public right of way, or is it in a park? With the DPR facility?
So the majority of these gentlemen sort of have claimed the southwest corner of Harry Thomas Park. So outside the fencing, there was a lot of grass and sod that was placed there last year, but it's all gone. But they also occupy the sidewalk space between Harry Thomas Park, sort of the entrance to the pool and rec center, and the Emery House building, which is on 1725 Lincoln Road. So if you are a parent with a stroller, if you're walking your dog, you know, it's hard to face people there, and sometimes they move, sometimes they don't. Yeah. Honestly, that's the least of the problem. It's the growing antisocial behavior, and the fact that it's not checking anybody. It's just going to get worse before it gets better. So I'm just pushing for some kind of action, because it's just been unchecked for 13 months now.
Yeah, I believe this is some of the work that Mr. Bonner is doing through the North Capitol Trust Builders, right? I'm looking at some of kind of.
But I know he's been on the emails,
Yeah.
and he has been able to assist in some limited capacity.
Okay.
But yeah, I think there's only so much he can do as well.
Sure,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, great. So it looks like we have some work to do, and hopefully have more to share in the October meeting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully more before then, but certainly by then. All right, great, excellent. Are there any additional hands for public comment? Amazing. Let us move on to the next item on the agenda. So I think we've had a lot of ABCA related items that have come up. So I thought it would be helpful to invite, or we thought it would be helpful to have the community resource officer from ABCA, Sarah, to come in and kind of present. And also mostly be available to provide Q&A. I think there were a lot of specific questions. I don't know if she can continue to stay on. I do know that we have an ABCA related item in our action agenda. But I just wanted to kind of open the floor a little bit for an opportunity for our neighbors to kind of ask her questions. She's been a really tremendous resource. I spent a lot of time with her on the phone already, but I just wanted to kind of open that up and kind of, she's apparently worked at AFCA for 12 years, so that's amazing. But I
Back when it wasn't ABCA.
yeah, well, yeah. So we'll go ahead and recognize Sarah. This is truly kind of an opportunity for folks to ask questions. Sarah, we will go to your co-host. Just give us a couple minutes.
Last name.
So is it Weniger or Reniger?
Yeah, it's Weniger. Yeah. But you might recognize me as a
Vinegar?
former fastball, so you can call me anything.
Awesome. All right. Well, the floor is yours. If you'd like to say a couple words, but I'll kind of turn to commissioners and to members of the public. Well, this is kind of an open period of we've allotted 10 minutes for the presentation, 10 minutes for Q&A, but the idea was this to mostly be a Q&A.
Yeah, so that was a great introduction. I'm the community resource officer with ABCA. I'll put in, or rather, you could probably ask your commissioners. I think not that many people are online. My contact information. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. People think they're bothering me. That is not true. I'm literally out here to help you. So if you have any questions about alcohol licenses or cannabis licenses, I'm more than happy to assist. But I'm really here for questions, so I'm prepared.
Awesome. Excellent. So we will go ahead. Please feel free to either use your physical hand or the hand feature. The first hand that I saw was Commissioner Bishop Henchman.
Thank you, Sarah, for joining us. I had a question on cannabis, the C in ABCA, I think. Hypothetically, if we have an unlicensed establishment in our area, where is ABCA at in getting establishments licensed, and kind of what's the practice? Is it like, stick first, shut them down, and then you got to apply, or is it helping them kind of get on the track to applying? And maybe it's not maybe that's too broad a question. If it is, I'm sure you can say that. And then the second related question is, we've just had an application at 2210 Fifth for a cannabis retailer that will include a summer garden. And I'm wondering if that's happened before yet, because we're looking for guidance on kind of how to proceed on that one.
Okay, so the first question, it is a bit broad, so I'll talk a little bit, and then if I need to calibrate, just let me know. The first question, so first of all, if someone hasn't applied for a cannabis license yet, we don't have an open period, and we do not know when the next open period will be. So if they haven't applied, they're not going to get a license, at least for a while. We're still processing applications from the last go round. We received well over 100 applications. We have over 200 social equity applications. So we probably won't have an open period for a while. So if they didn't apply, they're likely not going to get a license anytime soon. The best way to handle unlicensed establishments in your area is to just let us know about it, because it's possible we don't. And we will handle it through our enforcement track. So I get a lot of questions about what that looks like. The first thing we do is we go out and make sure that they're open. If they're open and they are selling unlicensed cannabis, or they're selling cannabis without a license, we're issuing warnings. The next step in the process is we issue a cease and desist, and they have the right to ask for a hearing. So whether the hearing's held or not, the last step in the process would be that we shut them down. So if you're following the news closely, you'll see that we have already shut down 2 establishments in the district, but it is a timely process. It takes some time for us to get to that point. So just because we haven't come to this establishment and shut it down doesn't mean it's not in the works. I'm not sure if I answered your question completely. The second question you had was about a summer garden. We have absolutely had establishments apply for a summer garden. And we actually had a protest for that request. Ultimately, the board decided to approve the summer garden request. So that particular establishment is over in Georgetown, and they are allowed to operate. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have about that. One thing I will mention is that if you're interested in entering into a settlement agreement, a variety of other ANCs have also entered into settlement agreements with cannabis licenses. And What I would do is I would reach out to me. I can put you in touch with our legal division, and they can kind of show you what's been approved, what hasn't been approved, and you can work on a settlement agreement that way if that's what you choose to do. You have every right to go to a full protest hearing if you intend to protest. We do not push settlement agreements. They're purely voluntary.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm gonna, Mr. Gowan, you got any?
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah, for joining tonight. And I appreciate you spending some extra time for your evening. On protest, I understand settlement agreements are voluntary. There are some settlement agreements that have been on the books for a long time, right? In some cases, 15 plus years. And those may not be posted on the website, correct? So if we needed to.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're cutting out. I'm still here, don't worry.
Second. I think we're back.
Okay, I hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Great. So no, I was just saying about settlement agreements that are on the books. Some of them may have changed names over the years, but those settlement agreements still apply today. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So the only issue that I think presents itself is that the settlement agreement may not be something that we consider fully enforceable today. And when I say that, I don't mean that we're going to throw out the whole agreement. There just might be certain clauses that we, upon today's review, might not be able to enforce. We could take a look at it for you if you want to send it our way. So there's a couple ways that they can amend or terminate their settlement agreement. I just want to make sure you guys can still hear me because I don't see you anymore.
We can.
Okay, some technical issues. There's a couple ways that a licensee can request to amend or terminate their settlement agreement. One would be with the full acceptance of whoever signed the previous agreement. So if it's with the ANC, regardless of whether you guys are redistricted or anything, you would have any settlement agreement that's in your boundaries, even if it was signed by another ANC. And you can make adjustments to the agreement. Both signatories have to sign off, submit it, get it approved by the board. The other way is if a 15-year-old settlement agreement, if we're talking about a specific licensee, we have we allow licensees to take settlement agreements that are 4 or more years old and ask to amend or terminate them without permission of the signatories during the renewal period. What will happen is they apply for it, we issue placards, and the community can protest the request to do that. More times than not, we see that during the renewal period, licensees will reach out to the ANC or whoever the signatory is and ask for some changes, or the other way around, that you would ask for changes to the agreement. And so we typically see a lot of amendments during the renewal period.
Thank you so much. Just to kind of add on to that, I think given we kind of the special circumstances of ANC 5F being a new commission, once I spoke with Sarah a lot, I think last week. So one thing that is on my to-do list is essentially to put in a FOIA request to get all the pre-existing settlement agreements for all the businesses in our area, because it does seem like a lot of the businesses do have existing settlement agreements. They just were made with previous ANCs based on the lines that were drawn, but that is on our to-do list to do. Okay.
Sorry, I have one more question. Could you just, and I know this may be a longer conversation, but could you just talk through the process for a protest, either by the group of five or the ANC as a whole or individual commissioners, like what is considered acceptable and kind of what that hearing process looks like and what those how those negotiations happen.
You mean what's considered acceptable?
So if a commission passes something that goes to a protest, what does that process look like?
Okay.
And the same for a group of five, what does that look like? And then if individuals submit comments for a protest, what's considered acceptable for individuals to submit? Does that make sense?
Okay, so I'll go over it.
the-
The best way to handle it is if you're writing a protest letter, you can first of all just reach out to me. But I wrote a whole section on the website on how to file a protest letter. So I think it's really helpful, but we can go through it together. I do want to show that there is a very big difference between cannabis licensing and alcohol licensing, and that for cannabis licenses, only advisory neighborhood commissions can protest. For alcohol licenses, you have other groups, such as groups of five, community associations, abutting property owners, advisory neighborhood commissions, the mayor, Metropolitan Police Department, the federal government. They can all file protests against alcohol licenses. For cannabis, again, it's only the ANC that can file a protest. In your protest letter, so the protest letter for both, it's going to look the same. For an ANC, you're going to have to say that it was at a duly noticed meeting with a quorum present, a majority vote in favor of protesting, and you're going to have to list out what are called appropriateness standards. So these are reasons why you feel like this particular establishment would not be appropriate for the neighborhood. That includes peace, order, and quiet, residential parking and vehicular and pedestrian safety, proximity to schools, rec centers, the effect on real estate, over concentration of like establishments in the neighborhood. Those are appropriateness standards. So you're just making a case. Ultimately, with that protest letter, it's the start to your case for why they're not appropriate for the neighborhood. The first step in the process is to go to a roll call hearing after you submit your protest letter. Keep in mind that you must submit it by the petition deadline that's outlined on the placards. We do not accept late protest letters for any reason. So the first step in the process would be the roll call hearing. It's non-adversarial. You go before the board's agent. You hear whether or not you have standing. You're given dates to the mediation, the status hearing, and the protest hearing. So the mediation is a resource that we provide to protestants and licensees or prospective licensees, and it gives you an opportunity to sit next to each other and have a conversation with a mediator there to see if you want to settle. It is required that you attend all steps in the process, but for mediation, while it is required that you show up, it is not required that you stay for any amount of time. If you do not wish to settle, you could say, hey, I'm here. I met my requirement. I no longer want to do this. Another option is if you think that the mediation is helpful, you can schedule multiple of them, but it's an opportunity for you to sit with a licensee. The status hearing just tells you what the status of, or you just provide the status of the case in front of the ABC board. So you say whether you're intending to settle, if there's any preliminary matters you need to discuss, anything like that. And then the last hearing is the one that everyone thinks about. It's the protest hearing. Essentially, you're going to have opening and closing statements. You're going to present witnesses. The board's going to present witnesses. The licensee is going to present witnesses. You can cross-examine them. And then you're basically making a case before the board for why either the license should be denied or changes to the license should be made so that it's better for the community. And then the board will take all of that information and then they'll issue a board order, and the licensee will either get the license, they'll get adjustments to their license, or they'll be denied a license. So the major question that I get from most ANCs is how many protests are successful? And I think that's an impossible question to answer because people tend to go before the ABC board with different information, different requests, protests. They're in different neighborhoods. Some neighborhoods are more residential, some are more commercial. A lot of times, when I was tracking it, about 90% of cases settled, and you might consider that successful. But more times than not, protestants go before the ABC board, not requesting for the license to be denied, but rather some adjustments to be made, such as hours changing, where entertainment is at the establishment, hours for the summer garden, things like that. I'm not sure if I answered all of your questions.
That's very helpful. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any commissioners? Okay, I will go to members of the public. Melissa, I see your hand. You are recognized.
Hi, thank you. I just had a really quick question. I know there's been a lot of stuff in the news in the last couple of days about ABCA having one cannabis inspector. Is there any plans to beef up that number to start cracking down on those illegal vendors?
Yeah, so in the news article that discussed that we have one investigator, it also provided information that we are at some point going to be hiring additional investigators. Currently, the position description is at DCHR. I can't speak to what is going on at this time beyond that. So the answer is yes,
great.
just it's pending.
Okay, great. Any other questions on this section? Okay, lovely. Sarah, are you potentially able to hang on for a little bit while we discuss our ABCA related item, which I think should be in like 10 minutes?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. I heard you say sure. Okay, perfect, excellent. Thank you so much. So we will close this Q&A portion and move on to the next item of our agenda, which I believe should be our consent agenda. Really quickly, my computer's frozen. Great, excellent. It is the consent agenda. So just a quick recap for those of you for whom this is our your first ANC 5F meeting, we just have this procedural thing called the consent agenda. These resolutions have been circulated to the commissioners in advance, so we kind of vote on them as a block rather than going through each of them piecemeal. Any commissioner is able to kind of pull an item off if they want to have a discussion on that separately. The two resolutions for consideration right now are supporting the Environmental Justice Amendment Act of 2023 and traffic calming at 3rd Street Northeast. I will give the commissioners a minute to see if they would like to pull any item off. If you would like to do that, please raise your hands and I will remove it from the agenda or from the consent agenda. Okay, excellent. I don't see any hands, so we will move forward with voting on these two resolutions as a block. So we will go through with we'll go through a roll call vote. Commissioner Hurst?
Moved and seconded.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you for our parliamentarian, or secretary who's also our parliamentarian. So I move to go to a roll call vote on this.
One second.
Commissioner Galvin seconded. Excellent. So we are now in a roll call vote. Commissioner Hurst?
Aye.
Commissioner Sani?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson is myself, and I vote aye. Commissioner Bishop Henchman?
Aye.
Commissioner Pinckney is not present. We're just taking a quick look online. She's not present. So with a vote of
6 yes, 0 no. 6 yes, 0 no.
great, excellent. This motion passes. All right, excellent. So the next item on our agenda is an action regarding Edgewood International Wine and Spirits and their ABCA license renewal. I will turn to both Commissioners Williams and Commissioner Galvin. Commissioner Galvin placed this on the agenda, but this is in Commissioner Williams's SMD. So I will kind of turn to both of you to see if there is a person who'd like to speak first.
Sure, I'll start this, okay? So this is actually, this was previously discussed in our July meeting, if I'm not mistaken. And we went through, there was a lot of public feedback on this particular liquor store There, it was submitted, it passed this commission, both the protest and both support of did not pass the commission level. But there was a group of 5 that did protest, and that went forward. So that first hearing started. I think there was some absences that happened, and that went Edgewood International Wine and Spirits to basically resubmit their poll a second time. And so as part of this process, I know that, there's been some other individuals involved, and wanted to bring up, I learned some new information since the last time I learned that, and as we had just discussed, part of my question to Sarah earlier was that there was which Commissioner Williams had notified us that there was an existing settlement agreement on, but I had not seen a copy of it until recently, and was able to kind of go through that and understand.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, I just put in.
Okay, sorry. I just learned that there was settlement agreement that was on the books. I think reading through that and understanding it a little bit more, I had, I obviously still have constituents in my district where they continue to have challenges from the particular store, buy from there and then go and help.
Which Wi-Fi are you?
I'm tethering to my phone because the Wi-Fi in here was bad enough that our video wasn't working.
I have David's Wi-Fi if you want to try that one.
I'm on the, so the, oh, sorry.
I'll turn mine. All right. If
I'm
it's
on
working,
his
it's
first.
working.
Sorry. Where is this?
Here, the instruction should be Commissioner.
Oh, okay. So meeting ID is 874-4902-3442. All right. Can everyone? All right. Can everyone hear us? We are dialed in. Sorry for the technical difficulties. but we will proceed. Okay, I think Commissioner Bowman, you were talking.
Thank you. So anyway, I wanted to bring this up. I have this pretty spirited debate, or public comment period that we had last time. And I even got additional feedback after that, last, meeting that we had. I did draft a resolution, protesting.
Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, okay, perfect.
How about now? So, what was I saying? So the timing, oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yes, yes. And so, I drafted a resolution, protesting the renewal. And my intent here is not to protest that the liquor store should not be there in existence. I think there are a lot of liquor stores in that area. I have talked to the owner or the owners of that space, and I do understand that this is part of their livelihood. It's how they, make money and make living and support their family, and also that they do participate in helping, call MPD when there are issues outside, that it's difficult to enforce loitering when there's not a loitering law that's existing. And I understand that there are challenges with the quality of life at the same time. And so my initial intent here was to kind of have a discussion about maybe there are some solutions to address the quality of life concerns, and liquor store feels like they are a major stakeholder as part of this process. And so I had spoken to them with a draft settlement agreement previously, asked if they were interested, if they had suggestions or comments on that agreement. They declined to participate in that, which of course is their right. Which basically restricted their hours. It was a starting point. I think initially it was 9 or 10 p.m. But I also understand, based on the feedback that we had last time, that really can hurt, obviously, their bottom line, and they may go out of business if we're restricting that. There's also another liquor store nearby that has one until midnight, although they rarely stay open that late. And that a lot of the folks, at least that live in my commission, have recognized that the patrons that are causing the challenges are servicing this. So, but I also recognize that not all of the issues are associated. So anyway, this is a starting conversation. I'd like to obviously pass the resolution protesting the letter, but I also understand that there may be other solutions that are there that can still address the quality of life concerns that are there. And maybe there's a partnership with MPD. And I think MPD is okay. I had asked MPD to come tonight, just talk about some of the issues that they were having. Apparently, they have decided to not show up. And so, but anyway, that's part of my deal. Sorry about that.
No problem. Needed to sit down and have a conversation, which was not done. From my understanding, Commissioner Elva, you went and told those three liquor stores that they had to be closed by 9. They had to sign the volunteer. All three said the same thing. You had to be closed by 9. You had to sign that voluntary settlement agreement. If not, you will pull the license. I've heard this 3 different times from all 3 establishments. Now, first of all, there is a no loitering law. not in place in DC. The only thing they can do, any establishment, is ask people to move along. If they need to dial MPD, they dial it. But the only thing MPD can do is ask them to move along. And as you know, or as you know that, they come and move the people. The people wait until the police leave and they come back. That's something that's been going on forever. Ever and ever and ever. Now, I'm not understanding what's the big problem about this establishment. They've only responsible for incidents in front of their store. Yes.
So I will respond to that. I will mention that it seems that people may have misinterpreted my settlement agreement as them having to sign that. I did not say that, I did not force anyone or claim that they. No.
Can you all hear us? Okay, great.
So I was just mentioning that I did not force anybody to sign a settlement agreement. I do not have power over the licenses. So maybe it was a communication issue, and for that I apologize. On the other front, which is why this particular business, it is the only liquor license that I'm aware of in our area that is open very late. And people, constituents, are telling me that the patrons that are causing the quality of life issues and challenges in that direct area are coming from Edgewood Liquor. And that's not the fault of Edgewood Liquor, that's not what I'm saying, but it is a particular venue that allows that behavior or perpetrates that behavior, even though they are not the ones doing it. Does that make sense?
I want to make sure that we open the floor as well. I think that you all, I'll give Commissioner Williams a chance to respond to that as well, but I think I also want to make sure that we get to other commissioners and members of the public to address this issue as well. But Commissioner Williams, okay, great. So I will kind of open it up in the interest of kind of like going towards an action, if that is something that we would like to move forward with. I will just quickly make a comment and then I will go to other commissioners. So I believe this item was discussed during our June meeting. I unfortunately was not able to join due to a day job paying situation. Sorry, y'all. But however, I did review the minutes and I did watch the meeting and saw the very spirited discussion. I had a long conversation with Sarah about it. Thank you, Sarah. I think a couple things that did jump out to me. First is that, as Commissioner Williams was saying, the businesses have there's only so much the business can do to prevent illegal activity that is happening not directly on their premises. As Commissioner Williams is saying, they can encourage people to move along, they can call MPD, but if it is, across the street, that is not necessarily the business's responsibility. So there are certain things that we can do to put into, again, the voluntary settlement agreement to kind of encourage certain behaviors, but there is a certain limit of responsibility into the business. Second, I think the one thing that to me, I think would be important is to make sure that whatever is decided, that the license is kind of in line with other businesses. I think that unless there is proof otherwise, providing kind of a very short hours compared to other businesses, I think would be close to being discriminatory. I think also would put the business into a competitive disadvantage with the other businesses. I think the third point that, and I'll have other points as well, but these are kind of the immediate things that came to mind since I wasn't on the June meeting. The third thing that comes to mind is, oh gosh, I lost it, is that, oh, whatever the license says, I think it's important that we consider what the actual license lists the hours at. I know that certain businesses don't go up to the specific hours of operation, but like by granting a license that permits a business to have those hours of operation, it is then within that business's right to operate under those hours. So I think even if there is like a tradition of a certain business, like not really operating under those full scope of those hours, our kind of ability to provide input on that kind of goes away once we approve the license. So I think that is important to remember. And then the fourth point, and I think if we have specific questions about this, they're still on the line as a resource. But one of my questions was like, what happens if there is a settlement agreement in place and basically the business does not abide by the settlement agreement? Like the settlement agreement is voluntary, but however, once both parties sign it and it is kind of adopted, there are consequences. They're mostly fines, and she can kind of go, if people are interested, we can go into kind of like how much those fines are, but they start kind of pretty low, but like they can become bigger and bigger fines. So there are consequences to not abiding by the settlement agreement. However, it is kind of you have to report violations essentially, right? So I think those were the first couple of points that I kind of didn't hear brought up in the June meeting. So I kind of wanted to bring those here. Commissioner, oh, sorry. So okay, Commissioner Williams, and I'll go to Commissioner Bishop.
First of all, the settlement agreement basically verbal. They come to the community meeting. If anything that needs to be done or said as far as this establishment, they comply. Not like they doing whatever and we're not, and I'm not saying anything. I am. Whenever an issue comes up, we sit down, we have a meeting, we discuss it. So a settlement agreement is worthless when we have full cooperation. When I have full cooperation with the establishment. And this is what I'm trying to understand. Why are you forcing this? All we have to do is sit down and have a conversation. And nobody's willing to do a conversation and everybody wants to protest. Protest for what? It's a civil conversation. An establishment. Doing a protest is showing being a full brat. That's what sum it up that way. Because I believe everybody's an adult. We can sit down and have a conversation. And if it comes to a point where there's no leeway either way, then we can sit down and discuss settlement agreement. But looking at that voluntary settlement agreement, no, I wouldn't allow nobody to sign it.
So before going to Commissioner Bishop Henchman, I think just one point of clarity, because I think in the June meeting, there was a lot of conversation about verbiage and kind of nuance in which words we're using. So I think it's important to kind of say that, like, I think Commissioner Williams, what you're saying is that the business has been cooperative, but I wouldn't say that there's a settlement agreement in place, right? Because that's a legal document that's binding by ABGA. But I hear the point that you're saying that there is that you have a strong relationship with the business. But I wouldn't. The 2003 settlement agreement exists, which was signed by 5C. That and we can kind of go over if people have questions about what's included in there. But I wouldn't say that that is a settlement agreement, since that is a specific document. But I just want to make sure that there's no confusion, right? And I sometimes think, like personally, think that the verbiage protest is a little bit not at the heart of what this is. I think it's a way to provide input. I think sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, it's kind of like not very great that we have to enter a protest, but that is kind of the verbiage that ABGA uses on how we provide kind of input into a license in order to have one that is kind of in that formal ABGA process. So I think there's a difference in what we're talking about the formal processes that have been permitted to kind of the ANC versus kind of more informal ways to provide input to the business. I'm going to go to Commissioner Bishop's mentions and pass the phone.
Thank you. So I do want to thank Commissioner Galvin because I think he did it right in the spirit of everything Commissioner Anderson is talking about, which is trying to, we don't start with protests. We start with trying to find, well, are there issues that the community has raised? And then we find a meeting of minds on it. And, there's been a lot of talk about the June meeting. We also talked about this at the May meeting too. We had a lot of community members raising the issues that they saw with this establishment. A lot of people who live across the street or within a block talking about peace and quiet and noise and rats and a lot of different issues that I think Commissioner Galvan lists in his resolution, and then the group of 5 protests listed in their protest. I voted yes last time. I'm going to vote yes this time. So I think that's no surprise. I also predicted that if we didn't do a settlement agreement, that there would be a group of 5 protests, and that is what happened. And I'd like to, in the question on the point of like the business working with us, let's be clear about why this is on our agenda again. Because normally what happens is there's an application, if there's a protest, it goes to APCA, APCA decides to do with it. Why is this back to us? This is back to us because they didn't show for the mediation. They let it get dismissed, and then they refiled a new application for the license, thinking that they can get around the group of 5 protest that way. Actually, you know what? They could. If either the group of 5 protest doesn't refile or if we don't have action. So, the community has raised over and over again real issues with this business, especially with the noise in late hours. I think we can find a solution for it, and it's something I said over and over at the June meeting is, all right, what are the issues that we have here, and can we find a meeting of the minds? I think there was willingness on that, on the ANC's part and on the community's part. Where there wasn't willingness was the business. And so, I hate doing protests of business. I think it's the wrong word, I agree. But, I hate doing it because I wish there was a way for the community to be heard that didn't require us to take a step like this. This is where we're at. I live 2 blocks from this establishment. Other than members of the public, I think I'm the closest one to the establishment physically. And all the other establishments have, it's been a question of, oh, I want to be a good community partner. How can we sort this out? For this one, it was a wall. And, I'm glad we're all engaged on this. I'm glad we're all trying to find a solution here. And that involves not just what the business wants, but also what the community is voicing, including my constituents who live south of the establishment. So, I don't know how we're navigating this with the pre-existing settlement agreement, but, count me as a vote for continuing these discussions and seeing if we can find a solution. I do want to add good news. The establishment put up no loitering signs. That's new. I'm glad that they did that. Thank you.
I do see some hands online, so I want to go to those. But just I think a quick note that I wanted to make regarding something really nice that Sarah had said. I think a lot of discussion in the June meeting that I personally heard as someone who was not there and kind of listening to it as almost like a bystander or kind of not someone actively engaged in the discussion was, I think there were a lot of questions about what role does the ANC's protest have? So that's something that I had a conversation with Sarah about, and I think she's still online, again, can answer questions. But just to reiterate, the ANC does not have the power to take or grant a license that rests with APCA. However, and just because the ANC protests and adopts certain hours doesn't necessarily mean that APCA is going to kind of abide by that, right? The other thing that I wanted to mention is, so when there is a group of 5 protests,
if the ANC, basically like by the ANC passing a formal like decision on it, like if the ANC does decide to protest, that kind of supplants the group of five. So in kind of the group of five process, there's a specific process that once there's a group of five that is registered, there's like a mediation process that goes through. But if the ANC takes official action on it, that kind of takes precedence over the group of five, if that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, absolutely. Do you want to ask a question, and I'll go to you, Melissa? Yeah, absolutely.
One, this is directed to Joe. What do you mean by the ANC's part? Two, you keep saying if the ANC protest this, it's already a number of five. But what about that one ANC commissioner that's not voting towards the protest? Where is the consideration for that ANC commissioner?
We'll go to Commissioner. Okay, just giving you a chance.
Commissioners do stuff in the best interests of the city, and it's us acting as a commission. So, you know, I may have views on this, Commissioner Gallon may have views on this, Commissioner Williams may have views on this, but what matters is what ANC 5F passes or doesn't pass. I think we all know that. I just want to make one additional point, which is I think they're applying for the wrong license. And I've said this to ABCA and kind of confuse them about it, but like, so they're applying for an AA retailer. But like, if you listen to the June meeting, and I've listened to it a couple times, on how they describe their establishment and who their competitors are and what they're trying to do and the service they provide, you know, being a gathering point for the community and competing with Metro Bar and being a place where, you know, people can be and be themselves. That sounds like a C tavern, not an A retailer. Honestly, based on like the videos that I've seen and sometimes in walking by, it's more like a C tavern with a summer garden. So like, I mean, if it was me, and as we just noted, it's not up to me, it's up to all of us, but I would protest on that grounds that this should be an application for a C tavern with summer garden, not an A retailer.
Melissa, I promise I'm coming to you. I'm going to make a quick note, and then Commissioner Williams, if you want to add to that, and then I promise I'm coming to you, Melissa. So I think Commissioner Bishop Henchman raises a good point, and that was one of the things that came to mind, that like different ABCA licenses exist for a reason to support different types of businesses. That's the reason why you also have to get endorsements and things like that. So that was, in addition to kind of the hours, that was also one of the things that came to mind and how the business was being described. So I will say that, and then I'll go to Commissioner Williams. Oh, and then actually, I have a question for Sarah quickly, just on, I think, so based on kind of official ABCA, official ANC actions, I think the ANC can take an action, vote on it, but there's nothing prohibiting like a commissioner from who maybe, this is maybe too Supreme Court-y, but there's nothing prohibiting like a commissioner from entering a letter who was part of the dissenting voice, correct, Sarah? I don't know if we still have to unmute you. Oh shoot, I'm so sorry. I may have accidentally muted you.
No, you're good. Absolutely. We accept letters from anyone in the community. Sorry, 1 second. Just coming over a cold. Yes. So the dissenting commissioner can absolutely submit a letter. They can also, if you go to a protest hearing, act as a witness for the licensee, whatever they wish to do. Absolutely. They wouldn't get great weight. We only provide great weight to ANCs that are submitting resolutions as a full body for a contested matter. So an individual SMD would not receive great weight.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. I am going to go to you, Melissa. Thank you for your patience.
Hi again, thank you. So first of all, obviously was disappointed with the outcome of the June meeting, but very glad to see that the issue is back on the agenda tonight. And as everyone has just said, the ANC's stance on this gets great weight at an ABCA hearing. Just wanted to clarify, since the June meeting, a lot of neighbors, there's more than 20 people who are on this protest that span a variety of blocks. It's not one or two buildings on 4th Street as people seem to think it is. People all the way from Bryant Street Development to 3rd and Bryant to 2nd and Adams, right? So this is pretty big in the SMD. We took time off of work and out of our days to go to an ABCA hearing, and the store didn't even show up. So we tried to come and have that civil conversation, and the store refused. They didn't tell ABCA why they weren't there. They just let the time expire and they reapplied. So they're resetting the clock, dragging this entire process out even further. There have been some quiet nights since then, which is great, but also recently, people have who loiter, and the issue here is not the loitering, it's the late hours of operation that are literally waking people up across the street, babies, doctors, like people who need to get sleep and go to work the next day. These people are started to harass and even threaten residents of my building and the building next to us. Last week, a woman waited outside of my building specifically for me, telling me that she was sent by someone who was a female, didn't give me a name, but just kept referring to she, and then made direct threats about vandalizing and burglarizing our building if we continue with the protest. This level of intimidation is absolutely unacceptable, regardless of who is directing these people to approach us. And again, I just want to make it clear, it's not our building. It's a whole group of people who span multiple blocks around here. And it's just, it's too late. Yes, the liquor store was here before these condo buildings were, but in the last 10 years, we've gone from a super barren strip of commercial stuff to 5 or 6 residential buildings of more than 20 people within 100 feet of this liquor store. It's becoming residential, and that old argument of we've been here first just doesn't really tread water anymore. Yeah, sure, people can come and hang out on the sidewalk and drink. I literally couldn't care less. I also, as a resident of ANC 5F, have the right to peace and quiet and order in my own home. I should be able to park across the street without illegal parking. I should not be woken up at 1 o'clock in the morning by party buses of drunk people coming to go to the latest open liquor store in the entire District of Columbia. So just hopefully the ANC can maybe potentially take a stand this time. Having that great weight effort going into the protest would be helpful. I will tell you that the group of 5+, which was 20+, has grown since then and will also be filing a protest. But it would be ideal to have the ANC actually representing the constituents that live here. Thank you.
Okay. Sarah, two quick questions for you. So first, if the ANC enters a protest, are the specific grounds with which the ANC protests given great weight, or is the protest, like, does it basically open up the period to have an open discussion, or is it specifically what's stated in the letter? So for example, if we protest the disturbance of peace and quiet and say we protest the hours, but come to the hearing to talk more about the specific issues, is that also given great weight? Or in the resolution, do we have to specifically spell out, like, let me rephrase the question. Do we have to choose a grounds, if entering a protest, do we have to choose a specific grounds in which we are protesting, and is that the only thing that's given a great weight, or is it the protest itself?
So your resolution is the item that's given great weight, but you do have to choose a grounds for protest. So you have to pick at least one of those appropriateness standards that I listed off. You don't have to explain why you pick them in the letter. You can just bullet point the one that you wish to pick or the multiples that you wish to pick. And then your letter would be given great weight. But great weight just means that we have to respond to your letter. So,
right.
Whereas if someone from the community filed a letter with us, we can just FYI, but with you, we have to say we received your letter, it's being processed, what have you. So.
Great, thank you so much. And then my second question was kind of regarding that point about, like, the type of license. So it does seem like, because part of the issue is that patrons of the establishment are kind of drinking on premises, and like public drinking is illegal, right? Like
Unless there's a fee tag.
right, unless, well, but like that's, if it doesn't, then you're drinking in public, right, which is illegal. So like, the question that is forming in my brain is regarding like, so if I go to a liquor store, well, I won't say, if a person, won't say me, if a person goes to a liquor store and consumes alcohol on its premises, that is a crime, correct?
Yeah, so they can't have people consume alcohol on their premises. Are they outside of the establishment, like in the parking lot, or are they actually on site?
Right. And I guess like the question, I mean, I think there's some debate as to how, within what proximity. I think some people have reported it's immediately outside the business's premises. Other people are saying it's across the street. But I guess like the question in general is, at what point is it the business's responsibility as a retailer rather than a tavern, right? Because there are more rules for a tavern license, right? There's more responsibility. Like for a tavern license, I think you need to have like an ABCA. I've actually never worked for a retailer, so I don't know if you need to have an ABCA licensed person on site. But just like there are more rules for a tavern.
You do.
Right?
No, you have to have an ABC manager on duty at all types of liquor licensed establishments. So
yeah, absolutely.
there aren't more rules, but they can't be selling alcohol and serving people for on-site consumption. If they're doing that, you can let us know. Where it gets a little bit tricky is that there's no loitering law in the district. So if people are loitering and they're drinking, it's not the businesses, the business can only do so much to ask people to move along. They can put signage up that says that people can't stand there. They can ask people to move along periodically, but there's no law against loitering. So it's a little complicated even for the government to enforce anything. But if people are drinking in public, that would be an MPD issue.
Right. I'm going to pass the phone to Commissioner Williams, and then I'm going to go to Lula.
Hello, Ms. Sarah. This question is for you. Statement is to you. This establishment is between a residential building and the gasoline station. They are drinking in front of the residential building and on the gasoline at the station's property, not on or in the store. This is where I'm having a problem with this newfound C license, tavern license. The establishment do not have a parking lot. So that's off the table as far as asking where that belongs. What I'm trying to understand, because the folks come out of the establishment and go to one side or the other, or go wherever they're going, how is that a problem for the people that's residing in the building adjacent to it? Ms. Sarah.
Sarah, I'm gonna let you respond, and then I'll go to Lula.
Sorry, I don't know if I can speak to how it's a problem for the adjacent building residents. That would be up to them to make that case before the board if they decide to protest the licensee.
And I think that's what they are doing, is the residents of the building are protesting with the grounds of a disruption to peace and quiet. Okay, I'm going to Lula. You're recognized. Okay. Lula, you may have to, there should be a point to say the ask to unmute, and then you'll have to actually unmute to be recognized. And I believe this is Lula from Edgewood International. All right, try unmuting one more time. Sorry for the technical difficulty. Try speaking, I think.
Hello?
Hi.
You
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Nigesh. I'm a good international liquor store owner. I've been last time meeting. I have a question. My question is, I've been that place 15 years. I never have no problem. People hanging next the building. It was building next to me. They hanging over there. Let me tell you what happened. You hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. People sitting outside the building every day. When I call the police, they told me there is no loitering law. You cannot move in the building. That's what they told me. I'm so stressed out. Also, they sit across the street. I beg them, please. People complain on me in the building. I beg them, please don't sit over there. I beg them every day. They say, okay. The past 2 months, nobody sit across the street the building. The other thing, why I am picked, for example, across street, there is one Korean store. Across street, there is another Korean store. The guy he came, he told me, we're trying to make new law. The one he got mask right there, I see him right now. He say, we're going to do law for everybody. I say, what kind of law? Everybody, he say, have to close certain time. Everybody say, close certain time, even that I told him it's gonna affect me. He said to me, instead of you losing your license, it's better for you. That's what he told me. I say to him, that's not fair. Because I've been 15 years. The past 5 years, there was construction right there. I lost my house. I've been homeless. I have 2 children that I'm worried about it every day. The lady, she said the meeting last time, she live across the street, they call her dog lady. She said to me, I'm trying to sell my building because she said the liquor store right there, she cannot sell it. What I have to do with that? Before she buy that condo, whatever apartment, you know, the liquor store was here. Why she buy that building in the first place? You know what? I'm so sick. I'm so broke. Why I'm so big? Huh? Everybody doing business, that commercial area, there's gas station open 24 hours. I can do anything to satisfy you. Tell me what I have to do. You close my business. You know what it is? Means killing my children. I'm losing my children. I'm losing my wife. Why I have to go through that? The only thing I beg you, let's find solution. You destroy my business, you don't get nothing, but I lose my family. I beg you again. Please, let's find solution. Make sure I have 11 years old and 12 years old kids. Those kids, they need food from me. I lost my house. I've been homeless. Now I have a small apartment. I don't want lose this apartment. Please, please, I beg you, I'm finished. Thank you so much.
For that. I think it's always really helpful to hear from the proprietors of the business. I think it's really important to recognize that, the establishment that we're talking about is a small business, and people's livelihoods are affected by this. So I do think that that is an important thing to recognize. I know that I'm gonna, yes, can I do a quick thing? Yeah, so I want to do a quick time check. We are at 8:35, and there are a couple additional items on the agenda that I'd like to move along to, but I do think that this is really important. There's been a lot of debate, there's been a lot of input from the community, so I want to make sure that we are responding to that. I do think that it's time for us, we've heard from a lot of parties, I think it's important that we move to an action of some sort. I will go back to hands from the public, but I just want to make sure that we are heading towards an action. I think we've gotten a lot of information here. We've had a lot of discussion at the May and at the June meeting. I will say personally, I will make a statement, because I think there is a protest. There has been a resolution with protest text that has been proposed by Commissioner Galvan. I'm just gonna, as someone who did not participate in the June meeting, just want to kind of say a point. I think whatever action that we take here today, I think it's important that it's in line with other businesses in the area. I think that yes, there are particular issues that have been raised by this particular business. I think that Commissioner Williams has said that they have been engaged with MPD, that they have been kind of have the no loitering signs, that they've been trying to be compliant. So I'm really kind of struggling a little bit because I don't want to be seen as discriminatory in any way. So I'm just going to use that particular verbiage because I think that is important. I was looking at some of the other licenses in the other retailers in the area. I think I'm going to continue to do more research, but it does seem like most of them have hours that go till midnight. I do think this business currently has a license that goes later than some of those, which is probably why they're getting some of that late night business. But I do want to make sure that I just wanted to personally say kind of where I was at the moment. So I'm going to go to Commissioner Bishop Henchman for your question, and then I will go for him.
What is the protest deadline?
I believe it's
Of this month?
23rd. Sorry, one second.
Hi there, Sharda. I am on 4th and Adams Street. And I just heard the testimony of the gentleman who owns the store, and he said he's broke. He said he doesn't have money to continue operating. If he cannot continue operating with his hours at 1 a.m., which seems slightly unreasonable to members of the community who have to listen to the traffic going in and out and the people driving up in their cars and triple parking, is it reasonable to expect that he should be able to continue his operation with it closing at 10 p.m. when the rest of the neighborhood can do that? It doesn't seem like his operation is suited for the neighborhood.
Come on. Let me raise my hand. Please.
You click this more button.
Yeah.
Sorry, one second, sir. One moment.
Click it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And if you want to put your hand down like mistake, you click it lower. And next time you click more, then click raise your hand.
I'm so sorry. Do you mind saying that one more time? Sorry, we were having technical difficulties in the meeting. Do you mind saying that one more time? Okay, I'm gonna feel free to speak whenever, but I think Commissioner Galvan was gonna kind of speak to that point.
Yeah, so I spoke to Nagash's wife.
And I think you all are muted, so you have to, I think, unmute yourself in order to. Yeah.
You hear me now?
Okay. Oh, just one moment.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, what I'm saying is those liquor stores, they open 12 a.m. in the morning next to me. The only thing right here, we have to be fair. You close me 10 o'clock, I'm out. I cannot get nothing. At least I have too much their hour. I think that's going to be fair. Because people, they come late. Some people, they get off 11 o'clock in the job. Even some people, they get off 12 o'clock. That's what that extra hour it was helping me in the past. I want you to help me, at least I have to compete the area of the store. That's what I'm asking you. I don't ask you nothing else. I'm just trying to survive. Like I told you, I serve this community. Everybody left the area because the construction 5 years. I hang over there. I lost my house. I lost everything. That road opened like 1 year ago. After that, this thing happened to me. Please, please help me, please. I have 2 children, please. I have 3 strokes the past 5 years because of the construction, because of the life. It's so difficult. I want you to help me, please. I beg you. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. It is 8:40 p.m. I would like us to move towards a motion. Sorry, one quick question before we do that. Sorry, Sarah. If we do enter a protest on peace and quiet, are we required to, if we put, do we need to add, we would like, what is my question? So basically, if the ANC were to be like, we would like the hours to be adjusted to an X hour, is the place to do that a resolution? And that suggestion would be given great weight to APCA, or could we be as general as saying we're protesting on the grounds of disturbance of peace and quiet? We are asking for an adjustment in consideration of business hours. How specific do you have to get? I know in a settlement agreement you can be quite specific since it's an agreement, but was just curious how that works.
So if your intention is to adjust the hours, you have a few options. One, you could work with the licensee and see if they go in and actually amend their application or change their hours. The other option is to enter into a settlement agreement with hours restrictions. And then the last option is you could file a protest letter, go all the way to the protest hearing, and then at the protest hearing explain to the board that you're not trying to deny them access to the license, you just want to restrict their hours.
Okay, great. So from what I'm hearing, basically in the actual protest resolution, that hours do not need to be specified, but the place to do that is at the hearing.
No, you would just write the appropriateness standards, sign off by an officer, do all the things for a protest letter. You could make that case at the protest hearing.
Okay. All right. Those are all the questions I had. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah, we'll make a final statement. And again, Nagash, thank you for joining. I did speak to your wife as well. And I understand that a construction project decimates businesses, especially right in front of it. And I know you went through a tremendous amount of pain and suffering during that process. And as I understand it, you used to have midnight hours and it got extended so that you could try to make the money back that you had lost. So that's part of the calculus here. In this resolution, and now I'm talking to everyone, it does not specify a specific set of hours, but it talks about the effect on peace, order, and quiet, and litter, residential parking issues, creation of blind spots, safety and deterring illegal activity. I know you guys are doing your effort, and it sounds like you guys are doing your best effort to try to involve MPD on this. This is part of, I hope we can continue to have other discussions with MPD and others, because there may be other solutions here. This is just the start of that conversation. that can help stem some of the challenges they're having. And that is why I have submitted this. In addition to, I think it is as I swore an oath, that I would be doing this in the best interest of Columbia and not individual areas, that I think that because of the crime, because of the issues of order, peace, and quiet, that it is in the best interest of the general community at large, that try to stem these issues. You are just one stakeholder as part of that. I would like to move this to, I would like to motion to move this to a vote. A resolution as.
Second. Can I propose like an, oh my goodness.
Can everyone hear us? Sarah, I think you're the only kind of person who's recognized. Do you mind unmuting and letting us know if you hear us?
You're the clearest you've ever been.
Amazing. So we're just gonna do my computer. All right, excellent. Thank you so much for bearing with us with all of our fun. It's never straightforward, is it? Okay, so I would like to motion for an amendment to this resolution before we. Good.
Okay,
Just
point of order. If it was already,
if it was already seconded.
if already
we have to go to vote?
seconded, what does that mean? You can still do it.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm open to amendments. Don't get me
Okay.
wrong. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, hold on one second. I just want to make sure. Okay. I think is there anyone else in this room who is unmuted? Mark, can you mute yourself? I think it's going to cause a feedback loop. Perfect. Excellent. Awesome. Okay. So I would like to propose an amendment to this resolution I can go through the specific text, but kind of in line, just in the interest of kind of expediency. I would like to kind of acknowledging what Commissioner Williams has shared, acknowledging what other commissioners have shared, and acknowledging what other neighbors have shared. Streamline the protests to be about the late night hours of operation. Because it sounds like, based on what Commissioner Williams is saying, that they have been cooperative with MPD. So kind of striking the section that kind of references that, and kind of streamlining the protest to focus on this disturbance of peace, order, and quiet. That is my motion.
Okay, so under the whereas, I guess that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's mostly about the be it resolved.
Therefore be it resolved.
Yeah.
So right now it says, on the grounds of the effect of the established on peace, order, and quiet, including noise and litter, that's fine.
You just stop it.
Yeah, and just stopping at that clause, acknowledging that allows us to go to the protest hearing and provide additional context.
Okay.
Y'all are looking at it. I don't have access to it.
It was circulated.
Yeah, it's on the website.
September 6th, and it is on the web.
But I have to go to the website.
We have emailed it to you, and we sent it on the website. Yes.
I am a vice chair, supposedly be. So why do I have to go to the website?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner, yeah, so I'm just gonna say that we come to order. I recognize your point. I will reiterate though that this resolution was circulated via email, which was sent to you. If there are issues with your ANC government email, I put you on email with the Office of ONCs to troubleshoot that. But the email was sent to you. It was also publicly distributed to the public, so it's accessible via different ways. I hear your point, but I think this issue with the email, which is kind of our primary mode of distributing written forms of documents, which are circulated to the commissioners prior to our meeting, has been sent to you. We do have a record of that.
So if there are issues with your email, again, I think I have to refer you to OANC because I don't control your email. I can't do anything about it except that encourage you to work with OANC to get access to your email. But I do have record that it was sent to you and that it was also available on our website. With that said, I will move. There is a motion, so I have motion to make an amendment to this resolution to focus the protest on peace, order, on quiet. So
Is it deleting everything?
essentially it's deleting after, yes.
Residential parking to vehicular and pedestrian safety and blocking of the crosswalk.
Yes,
Okay, okay.
yes. That is my motion. I'm just gonna quickly look at the rest of the things. Yes, so I think that is my motion to amend that particular clause. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Hurst has seconded that. I think the procedural thing is to vote on that.
Debate. There's any
Yeah, debate, and then, okay, any debate on that clause? Or any debate on that motion? I don't see any hands for debate. Are there any hands for debate? Okay, I will go to a voice vote, just for expediency. So all in favor of making that amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Commissioner Williams has voted nay. Any abstaining? Don't hear any voices for that, so that motion passes. So now, just to catch everyone, just to make sure we're all on the same page, this resolution that was placed online and circulated to the commissioners, we have amended it so that the therefore be it resolved clause has been amended. We're protesting on the grounds of peace, order, and quiet. So there's still a motion to take it to a vote. I think since the amendment has been adopted, we have that. Any debate on going to a vote on this resolution?
Could I move for another amendment?
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to include the context that we would like, if it is appropriate for this, that we instruct like the hours restriction, if there is any, on the license, be to bring it in line with adjoining businesses.
Okay.
Versus something more restrictive, perhaps.
Right. So that is a motion.
I second that.
Great. And I think our secretary is going to ask for more specific verbiage. You'd like to go ahead?
I want to ensure that we're encoding the intent that is to bring it in line with neighboring
Sorry, you had to tell me where
Yeah.
you're adding it and what you're adding.
Can I use yours?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. I think probably
that same.
that same clause on.
Right now it ends at peace, order, and quiet.
Including including noise and litter.
Sorry.
Other settlement agreements in the.
No, I think
Another license.
I think it would be to go ahead. Make your proposal and then we can have debate.
I propose that we say
To bring it into line with,
Yes.
or to match,
to match the latest hours that adjoining or not joining nearby businesses of the same license type are able to operate.
Okay, to match the latest hours. To match the hours of operation of the businesses, or do you
I'm
want to say
just saying latest hours.
Okay,
like
latest
the
hours
last
of
hour,
businesses.
closing hour.
Okay, latest hour. Do you have that, Commissioner Bishop
Here's what I
Henchman?
wrote.
Yeah.
To match the latest hours of nearby businesses of the same license type are permitted to operate. Match the latest hours of nearby business, same license type are permitted to operate. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
All right, I have Commissioner Sani moving that. Who seconded it?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Hurst is seconded. Great. Let's go to a voice vote. So all in favor of that amendment, vote aye. Aye. Commissioner, all abstaining? And all voting against?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, so the two of you are voting nay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay.
Put it back.
Okay, great. So it's a vote of 4-2, this motion
You
passes.
can say whatever you want to say. If somebody wants to count, they can ask for that.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna say, I heard 4 voices, 4-2. Did you have a question? No? Okay.
I would just encourage the ANC to consider the agreements, the settlement agreements that were made with projects nearby, as well as the operating hours. I know that the operating hours are later, but the settlement agreements are 10 p.m. And that would be the request of the neighbors to go for a 10 p.m. closure rather than the midnight closure.
I'm gonna make a point of inquiry to commissioners. Have we approved a settlement agreement with a retail business nearby? I think, because I was thinking Sosnick's. Okay, so
Max.
Max, oh, Max, yeah, okay, got it, okay.
It's just to 10 p.m.
Max was at 10 p.m. Got it. Okay. With those points made, is there a motion?
If there's any further amendments or.
Yeah, are there
then
amendments?
we proceed.
I'm sorry, I'll have to make an amendment to the, because I didn't add a resolution name to it. And I learned after speaking with ABCA that that I currently state that they had violated section 10 of their existing settlement agreement, which, you know, basically advertising alcoholic beverages on the exterior walls. I was incorrect in that statement. They're actually advertising on the windows, which it's the letter of the law, so that, you know, it's very plain language. So I'd like to remove the whereas section stating that it violates the current settlement agreement, section 10. And then change the resolution name to protest of ABCA license and the license number.
Okay, so I second that motion.
Sorry, is that 2 motions or 1 consolidated?
One consolidated, please.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I second. We'll go to a voice vote. All in favor of this amendment, vote aye, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All abstaining, all against. Okay, so as a vote of 5-1, this motion passes. I would also like to strike the section that says that in the whereas clause. Oh, is there a specific MPD, point of inquiry, is there a specific MPD official that has indicated this? There's an MPD official that is cited. Is there a specific MPD official that has said that?
Yes.
Okay.
I can give the name
Okay.
if that helps, but
Okay.
I asked them to be present today, but they
Okay.
changed districts. So.
Okay, got it. Okay. Okay, so there's still a motion that was seconded originally. Unless there is further debate, I would vote that. And just for clarity, this is a specific quote that kind of, that this MPD, because the way I'm reading this, it says it's basically like this specific MPD official has said that like alcohol is leading to this behavior. Is that the understanding?
That this particular licensee, because it is open so late, is creating problems of crime for that area.
Okay,
And if I mean, it's an office, technically it's a captain, but like I just said, it's a individual. It's not like a formal quote from MPD as large. So if we want to change that specifically, I'm open to that.
okay. Not to get too technical, but I just think that like if it is specific statement from an MPD official, I think I just want to make sure it's that that is kind of cited, because I do think that's important. Okay. I just want to make sure that I was reading that clause correctly. Okay, so I think there's still a motion. There's a second. I think we are going to close debate and then we're going to move to a vote. So I think for this, we should go to a roll call vote. I'm going to start with you, Commissioner Hurst.
Aye.
Commissioner Sani,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams. So the vote is to in support of this resolution with the amendments that have been adopted. Okay, so
Commissioner Williams votes no. Commissioner Galvin?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner, yeah, it's on my screen. Commissioner Anderson, is me and I vote aye. Commissioner Bishop Henchman? Commissioner Pinckney? Is not present, so, this motion passes with a vote of 5-1. Great. Moving on to the next item on our agenda. I know we've kind of passed our kind of stated meeting time, but thank you so much, everyone. So the next item is the Ackington Civic Association grant application. Actually, would you all be okay, just because since I think we've gone a little bit later, would we be okay with kind of amending the agenda to allow DOEE to present? So that they can go home and then we can go to the grant application?
Move to amend the agenda.
Thank
To
you.
move to DOE climate resilience opportunities in Ward 5 at this time.
I second. Any objections? All right, great. With none noted, the amendment has so been amended and we will come back to the grant application. DOE, you're recognized. Thank you so much for your patience.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm actually joined by a colleague from HCMA online, Riley Paiva. And we have a couple slides that we wanted to share on this, so she's gonna do it. She's on the Zoom. I'm gonna scroll my laptop around for my audience. Big screen here.
Okay.
My name is Aaron.
Okay. Yeah. And then your colleague was
Riley Paiva.
Sorry.
Great. I'm gonna put my computer just so for mic purposes, I think, right? Unless you are joined on Zoom. Oh, perfect. I will mute myself and then just unmute yourself there and then, nope. Oh, and we're gonna make you a co-host real fast.
What's that?
And we're gonna make you a co-host real fast. I'm gonna mute myself. So you might need a moment before you start speaking.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
And can everybody see my screen?
Yes. Could you state your name one more time or how you present on Zoom?
Yeah.
Hi, yes. I'm Riley Paiva.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for having me, commissioners. My name is Aaron Garnes-Holmes. I'm with the Department of Energy and Environment. Riley and I just wanted to use this opportunity to basically do a PSA to you about an update that we're doing to the Climate Ready DC plan. So we have a few slides to show you to sort of introduce the project. We were initially hoping to use the 5-minute discussion to talk about how some of these actions could support things here in 5F. I think that if we can't get that done in 5 minutes, we also would love to just follow up individually if you have ideas later. We meet with any of you one-on-one or same with folks in the neighborhood about this. So I'm part of the Urban Sustainability Administration at DOEE, and we are the sort of shepherds of our sustainability and climate plans. So I work on Climate Ready DC, which is our overall climate preparedness plan. So it's not about greenhouse gases and things, it's about preparing for extreme weather like heat and storms. And I work on Keep Cool DC, which is focused on extreme heat explicitly. And Riley can introduce herself.
Hello, I am Riley Paiva. And can you all hear me okay? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I am Riley Paiva. I'm on the Resilience Bureau at DC's Homeland Security and Emergency Management Agency. I work on a couple of different things, but we are the owners of the Resilient DC plan. And we are pretty much in charge of helping people respond to and recover from different kinds of emergencies. And today we're focused more on climate emergencies.
Okay, so we've all heard about climate change. I'm not going to go into a definition of it. It's something that we're already starting to experience the impacts of. We've had record heat. August was the warmest month in recorded human history, and July was the hottest July on record. Last summer was one of the hottest summers that DC has ever experienced. We've also seen more flash flooding and precipitation in the district, which is a combination of precipitation plus more urban development. And we know that we're on two tidal rivers in DC. So the Potomac and the Anacostia go up and down with the tides, which means they're also connected to sea level rise. And so we're already starting to see the effects of that along our waterfronts in the district. So there's a lot of, I guess, canaries in the coal mine that we're already starting to see with these changes. And unfortunately, we know that they are going to be getting more frequent and more extreme in the future. Perfect. So we know that we're going to be experiencing hotter temperatures. It's going to be hotter average temperatures all year long. It's also going to be hotter max temperatures every summer. We're going to see longer heat waves and higher temperatures during those heat waves. We're also going to be having just a wetter environment in general. The average number of inches of rainfall will be higher, but we're expecting that there will also be periods of drought in between, which we're already experiencing right now. This summer has been a drought. And unfortunately, the frequency and intensity of both rainfall events and big hurricanes is likely to increase in the future. And then again, I mentioned sea level rise along the rivers. So we are working on an update to our official scientific climate change projections. There's a document from 2015 that is still pretty accurate, but we've updated it with newer models. So that'll be published as part of this plan. And luckily, we do have plans that are looking at this issue. So Climate Ready DC came out in 2016, and it's the mayor's plan for adapting to climate change. And then we have Resilient DC, and that's an NHZMA product. So I'll sort of hand the baton over to Riley to introduce that plan and keep the presentation moving.
Resilient DC is the district strategy to thrive in all phases of change. So we do have a climate action chapter, but it also talks about things like health and the advancement of technology. So it's a broader range of objectives and actions. And the Resilient DC climate action chapter will be updated with the Climate Ready DC update. So we're updating all of these plans, like Erin said, because we have updated climate science first and foremost. So we want to make sure that all of the district plans are staying up to date on the best available science and technology available. And then we also have a strategy to focus these plans much more on the human impact and the human element. So we're focusing a lot more on the residents of the district and all of the people who have been impacted by climate change and how we can be improving conditions for those folks. We're also applying a racial equity lens and going through a whole REAP process to make sure that we're being equitable throughout all of our approaches with each individual action and objectives. And then, a bunch of other stuff. We're going to make some new metrics, and we're going to be kind of reorganizing the district's climate plans. So these are some of the things that we're all feeling as residents of the district. I think we're experiencing quite a bit of drought this year. So if we were to have continued years of prolonged drought, one of the important things here that I like to focus on in my work is the shortage of food that we would be expecting that would have a major impact on the district, just as an example. And a shortage of food would also, relate directly to a supply chain disruption. So all of these things are really interconnected. And these are the exact issues that we're hoping to focus on more specifically in this plan to get the impacts of the residents on the forefront. So we have been lucky enough to spend the last couple of months out in the community. Here are just some fun pictures. We've been doing pop-ups and interviews and focus groups where we've been able to chat with you all on your experiences with climate change in the district and how the climate has been affecting your lives. We had a lot of different focus groups that targeted different demographic areas to hear out individual stories. And then for the folks that wanted to dive a little bit deeper into specific stories about their neighborhood or their house or their commute, we set up one-on-one interviews and had really great conversations with a lot of folks that gave us some of these quotes that kind of depict what it's been like to grow up with climate change in the district and how things have changed over time. And we're using all of this information directly to kind of feed into the objectives and actions that land in Climate Ready 2.0. So these are just some of the themes that we got. The seasons are expanding. We identified more flood-prone areas. Some interesting facts that we found were that a lot of people do actually have air conditioning, but not everybody is able to run it every time it gets hot outside for various reasons. So we're just collecting themes like that throughout all of this engagement. And we are excited that we'll be having a bunch of open houses. So check the link here, the engage.dc.gov/climate ready, and feel free to pop into any of our open houses where we will be talking about the plan update, the objectives, and getting more feedback. There'll be some fun stuff that you can interact with. There will be stuff for your kids to interact with. So keep an eye out for the dates and locations for those open houses. And I will pass back to Aaron.
Okay, I think I'm taking it back from Riley here. So we've been doing a bunch of community engagement. We have more planned, but in the meantime, we're starting to pull this together into some draft materials, sort of a framework for the plan. So we haven't written it yet, that we're not presenting like a draft document or anything. That'll happen sometime, hopefully early 2025. But I do want to show you some of the big goals and objectives that we've come up with. So we want to have sort of 4 major chapters or goals that we're looking at with this, which is reorganizing what we had in the original document. We want to put first and foremost this supporting district residents to become more climate ready as a chapter. In the first plan, that wasn't it was a lot about infrastructure and governance and talked about people, but not super explicitly. So we want to put like direct services and programs that residents can access as part of the plan. So we'll have these 4 chapters. One is focused on buildings and infrastructure. One will be focused on internal DC governance, and the last will be about data and science and doing more research and things like that. If she goes to the next slide, you can see underneath each goal, we'll have several objectives, and then underneath each objective, we'll have several actions and indicators that we'll be tracking over time. We're anticipating that this will be the previous plan lasted for 10 years, but we're going to try to shorten that to a 5-year timeline that we're planning ahead for. So I want to just do a run through these goals and show you at least like 1 or 2 examples of what we're looking at under each one, and then we'll wrap it up. So under goal 1, supporting district residents to become climate ready, one of the things that we're looking at is improving better access to indoor cooling. We know that during heat waves, the people nationwide, people who die the most during a heat wave are elderly tenants who live alone and don't have access to air conditioning. So it's even more so than people who live outdoors. We are looking at regulations that might be able to set parameters for cooling might be required by landlords, or a temperature that units can't get over without being out of compliance. That's something that Montgomery County has enacted. We're also looking at better outreach around how to keep your home cool, and DOE provides some incentives to tenants to help like seal up holes in the home, and but there are little tips about just like running the ceiling fan the right way. We want to make sure we're doing better outreach around things like that. And we offer right now at DOE the LIHEAP program is low income home energy assistance program. So if people aren't running AC because they can't afford the bills, there is a way to get assistance for that. We rely on federal funding for that, but we're trying to aggressively apply for more that we can use for cooling in addition to the heating program. And then under the second chapter, we'd be looking more at like buildings and infrastructure. This is getting into things like building standards. We probably won't update the codes around this, but we might create some programs that help make sure anything we're building today, we're looking at its lifespan, projected lifespan, and forecasting what the climate's going to look like. If we're building a building, it should last for decades in the future. We know that it's going to look different than it does today. So build it to a standard that will survive in that future climate. We're also looking at not just buildings, but the neighborhood public spaces, so parks and streetscapes and things like that. So one of the examples here is to look at neighborhood scale. We call it blue-green infrastructure. This is, those green infrastructure things you see on the sidewalk that are like sunken. It's like that, but has more capacity and maybe underground tanks that holds flood water in addition to just treating the storm water. So at scale, if you have a bunch of those in a neighborhood, flood water running off of the street would be held in that rather than maybe going into a basement apartment. So we're looking at deploying that kind of technology through neighborhoods. Could also help just redesign and beautify streetscapes while we're at it. And we're looking at requiring some sort of shade analysis for like parks and playgrounds. We have a lot of playgrounds that don't have shading structures or enough trees nearby, so it's actually dangerous for kids to touch them. And that's something that DPR is aware of, but it's not like codified in the way that they're planning and analyzing their spaces. For the third chapter, we're going to look at internally at our own governance and how we're helping set up our agencies to all deal with this. So a quick example here is to maybe be requiring agencies in our performance planning to have some element of climate planning, so that everyone who's maybe running programs during the summer but isn't thinking about climate is recognizing that they need to be aware of the extreme heat for people outdoors, things like that. And we are looking at which planning efforts we can sort of incorporate this forecasting, looking ahead into. Like small area plans don't require this sort of forward looking for climate, but Office of Planning is interested in maybe making that a requirement for how they do small area. And then the last section is just focused on science and tools and research and making the data. We have tons of data about climate, but it's not all very always accessible to everyone, or there's so much that it's a little overwhelming. We want to create more accessible, relatable information that people can use. So one of the examples under this goal is to make sure we're continuing to like leverage the most recent data from the federal government, from different models that are used globally, and make sure we're updating our climate change projections. One of the things that we don't have a lot of data on right now is the health impacts of climate change. So we know that like asthma is getting worse. We know that we're seeing more heat-related EMS responses, but we are only just starting to collect data on that. So we want to work with DC Health to create like a data collection reporting plan so we can see if these trends are changing over time. So those are like, that's like a really fast run through some of the topics that we're looking at, but just going forward, our plan is that we're going to be doing these open houses this fall. That'll be like mid-November, December. We'll send all the ANC email addresses, our dates when we select them. There will be one in Ward 5. We don't know quite where yet. There's also a survey online that would be great if it could be distributed to your constituents. That'll be open through probably the end of October. And then in terms of the actual plan coming out, that would be sometime early, hopefully early 2025, we'll have a draft that we're not required to put this out for public comment, but we're going to ask for feedback on it for a month or two before we finalize it and would send it to the mayor's office for. So I think that is the end of the slide deck. So we're happy to answer any questions. And like I said, we can also follow up later on.
Just give me 1 minute. I'm just gonna, do you want to unmute you, do the whole thing?
Okay. Commissioner Lyons.
You mentioned the under sewage thing, not water. Have you had a conversation with the Department of Waters? Because they just did this huge underground infrastructure thing from northwest to Anacostia.
Right.
Would it be easy to attach what you're talking about to what's existing now?
Yeah. It depends on that. The tunnel project is capturing all the water that runs into the drains in the combined sewer overflow area of DC. So that, I actually don't know my map. I think it actually includes us all here in 5F and somewhere in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yes.
North and Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Right between Commissioner Williams and my district, the line.
Yeah. So theoretically, that can hold a lot of the rainfall that we're currently experiencing. If we were to see a drastic increase in the amount of precipitation, it might be at capacity in the future. What we do in our agencies, we're trying to focus on the areas outside of where those tunnels are capturing. So areas where there's flooding problems that aren't being solved by that right now. But we're working right now on a new model of where flooding is in the district. That's not just along the rivers. We have FEMA floodplains for the rivers, but for the sort of inland flooding, like the kind we see on Rhode Island Avenue, it's more like rainfall falling on concrete. that happens everywhere. We're hoping to have this out in the next 6 months or so, but it would be like a more integrated flood model that looks at storm drains, looks at the grading of the whole topography of the city, looks at the surface coverage, historical data about known flooding locations, and sort of future casting for what precipitation will have. So we'll have a much better like GIS model that you can look around the whole city and see where flood risk would be at a better, more precision. Absolutely.
All right. I'll go Commissioner Sani, then Commissioner Bishop Henchman.
Thank you for that. One thing that stood out, and I saw Commissioner Hurst also jump in because I co-sponsored this, but shade at parks and rec centers, which are our cooling centers, especially with splash pads and stuff. Kids are getting cool, but parents and caregivers, even children who want to take a break, are kind of left out in the direct sun, which is immensely unsafe. We had put a resolution out asking DPR to include that for like Edgewood Rec, and I'm glad to see that part of your plan involves updates and revisions to what we consider safe and accessible kind of cooling zones, or at least recreational zones. Would that also include like, and maybe this is looking too far, yours maybe more of a policy recommendation, like ways to retrofit and prioritize parts of the community? Like here in Northeast, we have far lower tree cover than our neighbors in Northwest. So like, do you have any idea of how you might attack or approach that?
Yeah, I think it's, so we don't have an established model where we're doing like a climate resilience planning project in each neighborhood. But we're starting our first one in Ivy City right now. We've done a flood study in Southwest, and that led to a whole plan that's now, we've got FEMA funding to construct, and we're doing something similar in Ivy City, but not just flooding, but looking at heat. And it's sort of a test to see if this is a way to do it, where we do a small neighborhood, we look at what the hazards are, and then can we use that to apply for federal funding to build some of this stuff. Otherwise, it's either has to be incorporated in maybe like OPSA planning's efforts, or done on like kind of an ad hoc basis. I know that the Urban Forestry Division, we work with them a lot on the issue of heat, so they're looking at the same maps of the temperature range through the city and where it's worse, and also where are people who are more susceptible to extreme heat living. So it's not just where is it hot, but it's like where are their average residents. So that sort of prioritizes their work, but I think a lot of tree canopy expansion is going to happen on private property. I think that there's only so many, there are still spots to stick trees on public property for sure, but there's a lot more to be done on, it sort of relies on residents and businesses to fill the gap. So we offer free shade trees, and we encourage people to do that, but not everyone wants a tree in their property. It's a whole thing we could talk about for hours about trees.
Great. Commissioner Bishop Henchman.
We have a nice plum tree. Neighborhood kids love it. Thank you for being here. And if you could resend the PowerPoint or.
Yeah, I got it right before the meeting. I'll make sure.
Especially the survey,
Yeah.
so we can get that out to people.
Yeah.
A question on shade and a question on flooding. That were similar to the questions that were already asked. We'll see if your answers are similar, which are fine if they are. So completely agree with everything you said on the importance of shade, the value of shade, and what it does for cooling. Over at the zoning commission, your application gets denied if you produce too much shade and shadow. So I'm wondering whether what you guys are working on will feed into the comprehensive plan and maybe change some of the criteria, or if your office will be showing up at some of these hearings where, the argument is, oh, we don't want shadow, when actually maybe in some circumstances it would be a good thing. That's one question. And then on flooding, historically, DC has only studied flood mitigation adjacent to waterways, and we are not adjacent to a waterway here, except when we become a waterway, such as along Rhode Island Avenue, which has happened at least twice in the last 3 years, and along 4th Street Northeast, which is in my district, which has happened at least once in the last 5 years. There's photos, coverage in social media. It was a disaster. It's terrible. But there's no flood study because we're not adjacent to a waterway. Are we changing that?
Well, so the integrated flood model, that sort of deeper look at the city, is, I think, the first step. I can't speak to some of that is related to FEMA and how they define waterways, and there's only so much we can do about that. In terms
I'll
of-
dig one if we've got to.
Well, historically, there were waterways, and I've looked over my colleague's shoulder at an early draft of this model, and it basically is a map of where the streams were buried. It's more complicated. I think that when it's built and we actually have like zones where we can look at the question, and I don't have an answer to this, so I'm not gonna hint anyway, because I don't actually know how they're thinking about this, but theoretically, there could be new regulatory something for areas.
I'd say if you could be a voice for us in saying it's not just adjacent to waterways, and I'm not even saying like, oh, it might, I'm saying, how about places that have had 3 floods in the last 10 years? Let's put them on the list.
Yeah, I think that there will be a broader conversation about that when this happens.
Commissioner Gavin.
First of all, thanks so much for coming. I know we've been partnering for a little bit, and I'm really excited to see this move forward and bringing us in early to have an opportunity. I think this is really important issue that I think is going to be major. It's already starting to be a major issue, and so I'm really excited that we get the opportunity to do this. Yeah, big thing on trees for me as well. I think, part of this also requires some maintenance planning, which I think is lacking in some areas of the district with respect to, just tree watering, and especially in the droughts, right? And I think incentives or however we can process that for residents or neighbors, or really give them some value to incentivize the watering or have the district pay for it themselves, right? During those types of events. But yeah, the flooding is a problem, and then weatherization. There's so much that just basics that folks can do that is not particularly expensive. So I'm excited that you have that included as well. So thanks for all your hard work, and look forward to continuing partner.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for staying late. Thank you for your patience and for sharing this critical information. We'll make sure it gets circulated. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Riley. All right. So let's revert back to the item on the agenda, which was the Eckington Civic Association grant application. I apologize, I forgot, I neglected to add the commissioner, but I will go to Commissioner Bishop Henchman since you've been kind of spearheading this process.
I have a permission slip. And
Yes,
from
absolutely.
ANC.
It has been, that's part of the folder of materials that has been shared.
So this is not telling us to do anything, but it is saying that the application complies with all DC laws and is in the judgment of OANC that it's a permissible expenditure of ANC funds. So how this has changed from previous is.
Yeah, could you do a quick recap of like what the grant is, the amount? Yeah.
So
Just-
Eckington Day, which will be October or something. Really cool. I hope you're all here, all there. Let me get. October 5th, Saturday, October 5th in Alicia Tanner Park, excuse me. The grant request is for $2,500 to support activities at Eckington Day, which will include face painters, a band, and chalk and bubbles and art supplies for children's activities. Separately, there will be other activities and things, but that is what the grant request is for.
Great. Any questions? We have been disconnected from, I think we're, oh, no, we are connected via me.
Yeah. The video.
Excellent. Awesome. Sorry for bearing with us and all the technical difficulties today. Apologize, but hopefully it has been enough to follow along. Great. I will turn to commissioners first for any questions. Commissioner Williams, I saw a hand. No?
No question.
Okay. You're gonna have to leave. Okay. Okay, so are you able to stay for, I think there was probably a motion. Would you like to stay for the, there's no additional debate? Is there a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the grant application of $2,500 to the Eckington Civic Association for Eckington Day.
Second.
Right, great. Let's go to a roll call vote. And then Commissioner Williams, you're welcome to stay or head out. We'll go real fast. Yeah, let's do a roll call. Commissioner Hurst.
Aye.
Commissioner Sani.
Aye.
Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Galvin.
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson is me and I vote aye. Commissioner Bishop Henchman. Commissioner Pinckney is not present, so with a vote of 6-0, this motion passes. Congratulations, Eckington Civic Association, your grant has been approved. Just procedural note that we should try to get this resolved before the next fiscal year, otherwise it gets a little bit complicated. Get with our treasurer and we'll get that for you as soon as we can. All right, next item of business is committee updates. Thank you so much, Commissioner Williams. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you for joining this evening. Additional items on the agenda. I know we're running late. Commissioner, we have committee and task force updates. Before we go into those updates, I will just quickly say to those remaining that these are open committees to anyone. I think just reverting back to the June meeting, I think there was some concern that our committees were not inclusive enough. Just want to state that they are open to everyone. We are always seeking more representation. If you would like to volunteer your time on an issue that really matters to you, we would welcome that. Commissioner Williams? Yeah, I think it was just, I think she just needed to open the meeting and she couldn't join, but I will encourage all committee members to just make it an open link so that everyone can pop on without a host. I think we can make it that way on Google Meet. But we will text shoot that. I saw your email, totally noted. I think that was a one-off fluke where the host of the meeting didn't join until later and there's a whole thing, but we will try to encourage.
I don't think there was a meeting for that.
I think there was, but it was a Google Meet meeting. And I think the host needed to join to start. But we will work on making sure that that is an open meeting for folks to join. But with that said, we will go to, is Melissa still on? All right, perfect. We'll go to you, Melissa, for an ACL committee update.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, we can also move from Google Meet to Zoom using the AI.
Sorry, 1 second. Go ahead.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry, yeah, we our meetings are the first Wednesday of the month. We can certainly move from a Google Meet to like a Zoom or something like that so that the meeting can just commence without a host. Apologies for that. There was a neighbor emergency that happened as a one-off. Super quick. The only thing that we have for October is the cannabis license for 2210 5th Street Northeast. This place is called The Warehouse. Excuse me. We've invited them to come to the October 2nd meeting to present their plans for the space, including the summer garden. And I've also told them about the third Monday of October meeting. Excuse me, the ANC 5F meeting in October. So just waiting for their response, and that's kind of the only thing that we need to discuss in October. We also will look to some of those settlement agreements for cannabis establishments that were mentioned earlier to start to craft a settlement agreement for the ACLC for ANC 5F.
Great. Thank you so much for that update. Any questions from anyone? Perfect. Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Please help with that, the establishment you talked about. I'm
Yep.
in the committee to help with that.
Great.
Yeah. Application.
Excellent.
I'd like to be involved as well. So we're excited to help with that.
All right. Moving on. Thank you so much. I'm going to any updates from the Community Engagement Committee. All right. Excellent. Public Safety and Health Committee, Mr. Aaron Price.
Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Awesome. Good evening, commissioners. Good evening, neighbors. I'll be nice and brief since we're over time. Thank you again to the commission for passing our committee's Environmental Justice Amendment Act resolution and the community engagement strategy. We will start prioritizing another resolution. We're heading into legislative season, so we are going to take a look at the legislative landscape, and based on that, we will recommend another resolution to be considered to be passed. We are starting the process of progressing the community engagement strategy now, and we need as much help as we can. So with that being said, I'll echo what Commissioner Anderson said. Our committees are open to anybody in the public that would like to take part in them. So our next committee meeting for public safety and health will be this Thursday, and we always do it hybrid. We have a Zoom link that's located on the website. It's every third Thursday, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. If you want to meet us in person, we will be in the Eckington Community Room, which is attached to the Judd and Wheeler building, closer to Alethea Tanner Park. And then also just welcome to anybody that wants to join. So if anybody wants to take an active part in combating public safety or health issues in the community, come to our meetings. We have more than enough that we need help with. We love the contributions from members of the community. There are things we can collectively do to make our community safer and healthier. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
I'm gonna send you the thing we got from Luis earlier. So I think
Right.
that committee
Yeah.
might be able to help us with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
Yeah, so we'll forward the resolution shared by Luis as part of public comment to the committee.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly say thanks, Daniel, for all your help in drafting the resolution for the Environmental Justice Act amendment.
Thank you so much. We'll go to TAPS. Mr. Sani?
Yeah, it's been a few months, I think, since we've managed to get around to this part of the agenda. I wonder why. The ANC is a
All right,
To extend by 10 minutes.
seconded. Any objections? None noted, move on.
Yeah, so coming out of TAPS, we've had some good discussions on the ongoing issues of moped usage, especially on the Metropolitan Branch Trail, which is a multi-use trail, on which they are not permitted. Still waiting on DC's legislation that has been promised to actually percolate. But in the meantime, we have, through the committee, put forward 2 resolutions, one on traffic calming for intersection of 7th and Hamlin, which this commission passed a few months ago, and one today that we passed for the traffic calming on, I think, the 1700 block of 3rd Street Northeast. That's in front of the ATC. Specifically, I wanted to call out committee members Scott McFadden and Nick Frazier for taking that on themselves and pushing forward to that. Immensely useful to have committee members who are passionate about this to participate in the resolution drafting process and work within the committee to push something for the commission. So thank you and congratulations to them and the rest of the TAPS committee for that. We've continued to hear from neighbors about traffic issues. So if you do have a particular intersection or something that you find is dangerous, I know Commissioner Galvan's dropped in a few times with some questions. And generally speaking, it doesn't need to lead to a resolution, but it's how we can help people connect to resources that might be useful to them. Yeah, that is my spiel.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Any questions? All right, any updates from zoning and development?
If he's not on, I'll just say,
I don't see Mr. Stone on, so if you wanna.
I know that they're planning on, I'd asked them if they could look at, there's a development we've gotten notice about adjacent or near the Brooklyn Metro Station. It kind of straddles 5B and 5F. To see if we want to take a position on that.
All right.
And can I also ask the zoning committee, and I have not actually been noticed by WMATA on that one. So
It's not the Wilmot.
it's the 900.
I think.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. I think one quick update of really a zoning thing. I think we had heard from Alona Aliyah from BZA case 21080 in previous meetings. That public hearing has been delayed to December 18th. So there's a little bit more time. This is regarding a construction in an alley lot. So just wanted to mention that during this section. I think previously we'd said that we would discuss it during this meeting. That is why it was not on the agenda. Okay, anything else? Anything for outreach?
Yeah, real quick update. I will be migrating us to the OANC Enterprise Zoom account later this week. I want to give some of our committees time to use the current Zoom setup before I potentially mess it up. But the hook is that will grant us unlimited cloud storage. It doesn't yet allow us to have multiple meeting hosts, which is still an annoyance, but I think that means any ANC commissioner can create and run meetings within Zoom. We might have a bit of a schedule advance. I have to see if we are allowed concurrent meetings within the same account. That is still up in the air. But once we do that, from my understanding from Director Bass, that will result in a prorated refund of what we budgeted out. So once that happens, I will coordinate with our treasurer to make sure that that money returns to the appropriate place. Additionally, once that's done, I'm going to start looking at Gov Delivery to migrate off our MailChimp platform, just once again make it accessible to all commissioners and avoid duplication of DC government services.
Great. Thank you so much for that update. Any questions from anyone? So noted. Library task force, as we kind of mentioned at the beginning, does anyone else want to report out? Yeah, regarding the meeting tomorrow?
Some quick status updates, Library Task Force for the past few weeks, and this is not this is me having participated in some of the discussions, not an official report from the task force chair, Ed Garnett, but they were previously involved in working with Link Strategies, the contractor that the library hired, to assist with the selection of the site and development of the designs. They've been working to make a flyer to distribute amongst the community so people could see that. We were hoping to have the QR code for the survey on it, but Link Partners closed the survey before the deadline that we had been told a while back, so that's the whole thing. But more positively, the Library Task Force, specifically Chair Garnett for the committee for the task force and Link Strategy were at the recent DC Family Bike Fest at Lithia Tanner Park, handing out flyers, collecting feedback on the various locations that have been proposed, and that'll all just feed back into their decision-making process for site selection. From what I gather, it went really well, and I believe that event itself had upwards of 2,000 attendees. So really good sampling of people who have families, who have children, who want to, who would definitely be patrons of such a place. So it's good to get some sampling of people who aren't, who like at events such as this. So I believe that flyer is reusable. So I believe the task force is going to be doing further discussions on where that can be disseminated.
Great. Awesome. Thank you for that update. I think we're probably over time.
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Okay, amazing. Appointments?
Yes, I would like to nominate Eric Englund. He's a 5F02 resident to join the TAPS committee.
All right, great, excellent. Any objections? None noted, so appointed. Are there any additional motions on the floor?
I move to adjourn.
Yes.
I second. Any objections? With none noted, this meeting was brought to a close at 9:41. Thank you so much for your patience. We will see you all in October.
October 21.
Excuse me. Oh, sorry.